So here we have MEW on the daily time frame. We are on a larger range, though. We will get onto the small ranges in a minute when we do actually look at what the price action is doing, obviously, in the moment. I do want to just quickly go over some equilibriums on the larger time frame, obviously spanning back, November 2024, just see, how we've responded to these equilibriums. Obviously, we'll get onto where we are currently, in a minute or two. So we do have this equilibrium at 12,879 to 11,421 here on the screen. We did respond very, very nicely to this equilibrium here. Obviously bouncing off, and this is kind of where we've come from. Currently right now at at 4,349. This is kind of the movement we've seen. This normal lower low, lower high type of thing going down. So we haven't shown signs of flipping this yet. As we can see again on the daily, it's more of a rounded thing. Rounded movement. We can see pretty normal movement here. Every single low has been surpassed, especially here as well. So but you can kind of see the gradient in which we've been moving down from this area, basically the end of last year, coming into December time till now. You can see the gradient until basically January time has been pretty sharp. But obviously, coming into where we are now, again, still sharp, but not as dramatic, especially during Christmas time until about 15th of January, basically the middle of this month. Very, very polar. We can see here very drastic movement downwards, but we're actually slowing down. Okay, we haven't flipped it yet. We haven't done a higher high or a higher low. We are slowing down. Now, we'll actually obviously move on now to the lower time frames and the lower ranges. So if we zoom, actually, let's keep on the daily, actually, because it's a bit hard to see everything what's going on. Let's go on to 81. I'll do the equilibriums for now, so we can see basically what's going on. Okay, so these are the equilibriums on the lower range down, still equilibriums. So obviously, if we look at the 243, you can still see it is equilibrium here as well. But if we go and hide this, we can still see that is obviously respecting that equilibrium there. Obviously, we have equilibrium here as well on the lower range. So we can see, if we would just not see anything else other than the ranges, it just looks like we have general resistance. Obviously, we had a hoverage here. But obviously, as we established price, we then just formed this. We're now just doing our thing here. Obviously, on the lower end of things now, coming towards obviously 4,339, whatever. Currently, obviously, as a bounce from 12,393 up here, which we just showed from the end of last year until now. So, actually showing the ranges, which obviously a bit, do take up quite a lot on the screen. We can probably still keep it on the daily, so we can actually still, see price action pretty relative to where we've come from. Obviously going back to this kind of movement here, you can see very, equal, but not, obviously not, changing in terms of its direction. Still a lower low here. Obviously had this nice movement here, coming down to again the important area equilibrium, not only at 4,337 to 3,849, but also from 3,3 to 4,777 ish, whatever. This whole thing, not only is this red area, but this whole thing here is going to be equilibrium, and currently is equilibrium. So if we actually go to the 4 hour now and actually see what we have going on currently, we can obviously tell this is playing out. You can see especially here, these multiple bounces here, having difficulty below this resistance and being down here, obviously finally breaking through to the midpoint of the equilibrium. Now, I don't think we're going to flip this equilibrium. I don't think we'll come below this, especially with the prospects of what I think is going on in the market. In terms of Bitcoin and Solana, if you were at, if you were watching live on the stream, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Obviously, I'm streaming tonight as well. But anyway, also the second important thing of now currently is the big talk about DeepSeek and that AI thing. I think the market has come down, across the board due to kind of, tech stock potential, and obviously the results of like NVIDIA, for example. That's kind of brought the market down a bit. A lot of value has been lost there, but again, it's not something which is critically affected the market. It is something which is kind of like a fear thing. It's something which isn't in control of the price action. So to relate that to this, again, another movement downwards for the market. You can see since basically the start of today, obviously coming into today, we've been coming down since then. So obviously the announcement, I don't know how long ago it was, but again, it has resulted in the market movement downwards. So to apply that to why I think we're going to move back upwards, again, we are going to recover from this, because DeepSeek, I don't think is as dramatic as it has been made out to be. I really don't think it's that bad. Obviously, I'll be talking about it on my stream later today. I don't think it's that critical that it's going to permanently bring things down to the levels we are seeing currently. I think we are going to recover from this. Again, it's not anything too particular. So we are going to be recovering from this. So to apply that movement to what we've seen today, we are going to slowly be moving upwards, upwards to where we were basically, which is going to be bouncing off equilibrium. But you can see we have come from the midpoint of this equilibrium here really nicely. So I think we are going to have this bounce and continue upwards. But what's our results? What do we have to surpass? Well, we have this resistance basically. If we could surpass this resistance, we are then going to be doing higher highs, which then obviously if we can do a higher high, higher low, then we are going to be flipping our trend, especially on the higher range. Again, coming from where we have come from, we do have to obviously see it on a higher range or a higher. I'm drawing this pretty badly here, but again, we are going to have to see a higher high. Not only on the 4 hour above where we are currently, or about 5005. We are going to have to see it above here at about 675 as well, until we can actually see a more longer term thing on the daily, in terms of our flipping our trend to come back upwards towards 12 area. So yeah, that's something we have to do critically. But you can see even on the daily, obviously we haven't printed on the daily yet, it's still very nice. As long as we can print above this equilibrium, hopefully should be a good bounce. I don't think we're going to flip equilibrium. I don't think we're going to come below it. Personally, for MEW, I think we have established a good high and low in between this equilibrium down here and at about 12 or 1.2 cents. For MEW, I think we've established a nice range. I think we are going to be bouncing for MEW. I think we are going to be coming back upwards. In terms of where we can go to, or what's going to give us issue when we are coming upwards, mainly is going to be, I don't think this grey area, it's a weak resistance anyway. I think the main one's going to be this big old thing here, because this is a breaker block. Drawn here. Now this is a negative breaker block, but again it is also going to be an order block, which is positive. So we do need to flip this in order for us to actually get upwards. But again, once we can see that 6.6 area up here, 6.75, I think we'll be pretty confident. Again, we did have a fair value gap here, which we did fill quite nicely, and then continue to come downwards. But we do have different marks above us for MEW. If I were to point out anything in particular on the daily, to have a quick look at anything, we do have this one here, maybe at 5.6, which also does coincide with what we've got here. So if I was to point something out quickly, I'll probably put the midpoint out of this breaker block here. If I were to shimmy that across to where we are now, it'd be about 5.653 there. Would probably be a decent resistance point, especially on the daily. This is not really long term or short term in terms of the next day or two. This is obviously going to happen over a course of however many days. But again, 5.653 is probably one of my main price points for MEW as well, in terms of our resistance, where we could see difficulty if we were to continue. But even if it is a scenario where we see a bounce off equilibrium, come towards that resistance, and then come down again, I think it would be more so of this, a W. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another visit at where we are right now, basically at this equilibrium. But obviously that would start to form, in our downtrend. We would see a rough equal bounce here, which would then equal lows, which would hopefully then surpass us here and then continue onwards towards, to flip the trend, basically. So I do think we should see something like that, because this equilibrium, it's not like a random line, which is formed or something which is easily broken. These are critical areas when it, not only for MEW, for every single coin. It does have these equilibrium points. These are critical areas. The yellow lines and the red are the critical lines, basically, for any token. Obviously, we can see on the daily as well here, we were holding pretty nicely above these ones, especially bouncing as well. Obviously here, a critical move, and obviously this purple line here, again, if you know about the purple lines, these are the expansion lines. So we see this nice surpass, a nice bounce off of it, and then continue onwards. So the purple, yellow, and red lines are normally the most important lines. Okay, so currently, how as I see it, where our importance is lying is in the support. Okay, so the next thing I would expect is a movement upwards from where we are right now. So obviously, as a short-term thing over maybe a couple days, or a shorter term thing, I would expect a retracement. We might hover in this area a bit longer. But obviously, if you just do a long position from where we are, shift it below equilibrium. Now, again, if something negative happens, again, it's going to be shaky waters potentially, because again, the resultant of DeepSeek and everything in tech has been quite recent. So in terms of the, I think America's probably going to, kick them out, basically. I think it's already happened anyway, with the restriction of DeepSeek only being to mainland China phone numbers. So there's going to be quite a lot of talk about that, I think, over the next couple of days, or day or two, whatever it's going to be. So that will obviously play effect into the market. So that might give us some shaky price action, which might not relate to how we should move. But my expectation should be to keep above this equilibrium and a movement up towards this midpoint area at this equilibrium. So resistance in this area, I think we are going to produce a higher high. If you were to consider the higher highs being in this area, I think we should surpass this towards maybe 5.5. So if I was to put a take profit at about maybe 5.5, let's say, let's just keep it conservative. Obviously a stop loss at about the equilibrium down here, maybe a bit below, if you wanted to be a bit safer. Obviously it does depend on if you're doing futures or not, or whatever you're trading, but I do think we are going to be coming upwards over the longer term. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if to expect a bit more movement like this, in this area from you, but I do think the result should be a bounce back upwards towards 5.5. Again, the second thing we should expect, or another thing we may see, is a bit of difficulty at 4.788.87. Obviously we can see we used it as support a couple times. We probably will see resistance there, so it depends on how long you want to keep a trade open for. If you want to do a quick trade, you could probably get a take profit at 4.776 for 11% profit. Maybe do a not financial advice or anything, but maybe do a higher leverage, trade this and then get out. So obviously maybe put this a bit closer. You'd probably have to go to the 1 hour to see exactly where to put all these stop losses and take profits. But in my personal opinion, if you were to trade over a bit of a longer period, over a couple days, week, whatever it's going to take, however long this is going to take, then it would be closer towards about 5.6 area for the midpoint of that breaker block of resistance we have currently on the 4 hour. So that's my opinion. Again, no, this is financial advice. That's what I think for MEW. I think we are going to be recovering. Again, not only looking at this kind of smaller scope we have on the 4 hour, but also on the daily. If we look at the wider range of things, especially if we just show the equilibriums only, we have, actually I should probably do this one. I do not want to delete that, whoops. There we go. So if we were to show equilibriums here, we have an established area, in between these two, these two at 4.293 all the way up towards about 12 up here. We have established critical equilibriums. If we look at the longer kind of area, obviously we have the equilibriums on the 27. I wouldn't be surprised if there was obviously these are the highs up here. So if we actually hide this quickly and do this, we do have different areas. So obviously we can see the response off here. You can see bounce here, try to surpass to the high, fell, bounce here, surpassed. Obviously bounces currently where we are about 5th of January, surpassing the equilibrium. Again, it's the 27 equilibrium. It's not going to be anything too critical, but for MEW in its own sphere, the 81 and the 243, which are those numbers to identify the ranges, are more critical. So if we were to only show those, these are the more critical areas, which currently is encompassing both of the 81s, which are these two lines or these two equilibriums here. So these are the critical areas for MEW, which are the two main areas we see. Especially down here, the main area is about 4, and then the main high we've seen, the highest we've seen anyway, is about 12. So these are the critical areas. So I would expect over a longer period of time, again, this is the daily, this is a long period thing, we have revisited this low. So to see maybe a movement upwards, and again, the general trend we've seen is a positive one, especially this kind of movement here. The general movement is positive. Again, we have got this kind of movement which kind of expands a bit higher, but the general movement is in a bullish trend. We don't really have lower highs, lower lows. The previous low was about here. If you were to kind of look at the general trend, this was kind of the movement. The low was about here at about 3.7, 3.8. So we haven't surpassed that low. So I do think if we hold this equilibrium, which I think we will do, we will then just be producing a higher low in the grand scheme of things. Okay, so in that case, we should then see another high, which would then bring us back upwards towards this area, about 13. So long term from you, that's what I'm expecting as well. which obviously coincides with what I'm talking about right now. So yeah, it's a movement back upwards from you is what I'm expecting. So yeah, now might be a good time to buy, not financial advice. But again, this drop has also kind of coincided with something external from the market, something news based. So again, these are going to give you big drops and then a nice kind of steady move back upwards normally. So either way should be a good time to buy, not financial advice. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.